I've had a lot of people ask me in recent videos where I'm talking about traveling with my family on how we're going to educate our kids. And I've mentioned world schooling a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit more about why and how we're educating our kids, how we've educated our kids so far without traditional schools, and how we plan on continuing to educate our kids as we travel. I want to quickly say that a big reason that we chose not to educate our kids in the traditional sense of just sending them to public school. I feel like there's so many things that are wrong with the education system in America. I feel like there's so much going on in public schools, from what they want to teach our kids, indoctrination, and just the dangers of school, considering school shootings and stuff like that. I went to public schools in the inner city. I know how bad our education system is, and I know that it's only getting worse. Let's just say I'm not a big fan of our public education system here in America, and private school is just too expensive. So when I set out to learn how to code, one of the big goals that I had was to make enough money so that my wife can stay home if she wanted to, and so that she can focus on raising our kids and teaching them. So I was able to accomplish that, and my wife is a stay-at-home mom and a homemaker, and she's the one that is primarily taking care of our children's education. And we homeschool. But homeschooling is not what everyone thinks it is, and homeschooling is very different than what it was in the 80s and 90s, where you mentioned like a homeschooled kid to someone who's like my age or a little younger, and they think that like you're gonna have like this really weird kid who has like no social skills, and that's actually far from the truth. Of course, everybody homeschools differently, and I'm just talking about the way that we're doing it. And my wife teaches the kids a lot of different things at home. She uses worksheets. She uses different educational resources from things that she finds online to actually help them with their reading and arithmetic and like the core skills that they need. But she's also a member of a local co-op, which is a group of homeschooling parents who get together and teach their kids together, and they meet multiple times a week. That's actually where they're at right now. And as part of this co-op, the group comes up with different curriculum, which the children attend. And they host kids from as young as 3 years old all the way up until like early preteens. And they teach and educate them with a whole bunch of different stuff. Like my wife did a class that was all around science, and she was teaching our kids about the solar system and different things like that. They do crafts, they do art, they do everything that you would expect from a school, but it's community based, and it's a smaller group where all the parents know each other and all the kids get to interact and socialize and learn together. They have recess. They have some days that are field trip days where they go to the museums or they go to different places and different parks so that they can play and learn. And they really focus on teaching as a community and as a group. And every parent knows each other. All the kids know each other. And it really helps having that connection between the parents and having that community, because I think one of the big problems that we have with public school is that the parents are so disconnected from their children's education. Parents aren't as involved as they should be, and they just kind of like send kids off to school, and it's like the teacher's problem, which sucks for teachers. I feel bad for teachers. And even though they are the people who are molding our children for the future, most of them are underpaid and they are understaffed, and they have too many students, so they can't focus on each child individually. And the parents aren't as involved as they should be. They're burdened with this responsibility of having to teach other people's kids who are mostly bratty, because those parents aren't involved in their kids in school. They aren't involved in their kids at home, and they're letting them being raised by tablets and Xboxes and YouTube. And we don't have that with this co-op homeschooling setup that we have. It's the opposite. Their classrooms are a lot smaller. The parents are directly involved. The parents are teaching. They're focusing on trying to give them real curriculum that's appropriate to their age levels or even a little bit higher. The kids are also mixed in with a lot of various age ranges, which is a good thing, because one of the things that you notice about school is that all the kids are sectioned off with grades. And when you look into like Montessori type of teaching for schools, because that was a type of schooling that we were interested in, you'll know that Montessori schools, which are pretty successful in teaching kids, and a lot of kids that go to those schools end up being very successful in their adult lives. They teach the kids in a wide age range, which helps the older kids teach the younger kids, and it helps the younger kids learn from from the older kids, and it separates that segregation of kids by age groups and by grades, and it makes kids more confident and it makes kids more accepting of each other, which I think normal schooling, when you block kids off into different grades, you kind of have that, oh, the older kids don't talk to the younger kids and the younger kids are scared of the older kids. And with our setup, with our co-op, with what I've seen from that, I've seen that all the kids kind of play together, and there isn't that, I don't want to say bullying, but there isn't that separation of like young to old. Everybody kind of gets along and everyone's more accepting of each other, and all the kids feel more comfortable with each other, which is funny because oftentimes that's one of the things that we see and hear from other people, where it's just like, how do your kids like get along with the older kids so well? And how do they play with the younger kids so nicely? It's because we don't have that separation in the co-op, and we don't have that with the homeschooling setup, and even with the world schooling stuff, which I'll get into in a bit, which is what we're going to be doing. We didn't see a lot of that because everyone kind of works together, and the kids don't have that ideology of like, oh, I'm older, I'm not going to mess with the younger kids, they're dumb, and the younger kids aren't scared of the big scary older kids because they interact. Another thing too is that like with regular school, since the parents are so separated from what's going on, a lot of the times when kids aren't getting along, or you're having a problem where kids are fighting or there's bullying and stuff like that, you don't have a direct connection with the parent, and you usually play like this game of telephone. We had our kid in public school at one point. We didn't even know that something was going on because the teachers didn't tell us, and our kids came and told us. We don't have that with the co-op setup. In the co-op setup that my wife is a part of, if kids have any problems with each other and they can't work it out amongst each other, the parents are right there and they help the kids work it out. And if it's like, hey, so-and-so was treating so-and-so poorly, what's going on? We can go directly talk to the parent of that child, or that parent of that child can come directly talk to us if our kid is having a problem with their kid, or their kid is having a problem with our kid, and we can work it out, and we can get to the bottom of what the problem is, and we can talk to our children about it, and we can help them build those relationships and help them grow socially when they have problems with other people. And we can kind of be there to guide them, where you don't have that in public school. You don't have that in regular school. There's a big disconnect between parents and children and teachers in regular school that we don't have in these co-ops. Another part of our homeschooling setup, which isn't available in all places, and we're just lucky that we live in a state and a city that actually offers something like this, is that there is a public school that originally started as a homeschooling co-op type of setup that eventually got so big that it kind of got absorbed and became part of a public school system, and it's open to homeschoolers. Again, this is just something that's very specific to our area. The school is mostly Montessori, so again, it has like all the different age ranges where kids can kind of learn what they want to learn and whatnot. And I'm not going to get into what Montessori is, but if you've heard of that, then this is the kind of school it is. And what they offer is a homeschooling program where if you're someone who homeschools your children, you can come and go to this public school, enroll your kids in a variety of different classes that they offer at this public school that has a Montessori setup and a homeschooling setup. So the parents can volunteer to like help the teachers, or you can just drop your kids off for a class or 2 or 3 whenever you want. And they have all types of different classes as well. A lot of like what the co-op does, and they also have classes that teach more regular things like arithmetic, reading, and things like that. They also allow you to bring your kids for PE, and you can go and pick and choose what days and what classes you want your kids to be a part of, and it's all free, and it's all part of the public education system here in Washington State. And they call the program H Connect, which is like Homeschooling Connect. Again, very specific to our area, but it's just another way that my wife and I are educating our kids. I should say my wife, because like I said, she's the one that kind of handles all that as the one that's in charge of like homeschooling the children. I help when I can. I do worksheets with the kids. I help them read. We read every single night. Now, as our kids are getting older, when they were younger, I would read to them every single night and like, work through the words. And now our kids are reading to us every night, which is kind of cool. And that's all part of the learning process. Apart from those co-op and the H Connect thing, which is kind of more structured things that we do to teach our kids, another thing that we do is that we try to turn everything into a learning opportunity. Whenever we're taking our kids to places, like whether it be the museum, the kids museum, an art gallery, whatever. And art gallery sounds pretty bougie, but like an art museum, whatever it is, a zoo or something that we can go take our kids to. Whenever there's an opportunity where they're curious and they have questions about things, every time our kids ask us a question, my wife and I put a lot of effort into giving them a good answer. There is no, I don't know, or don't bother me with that. Every single thing that my kids ask, if I don't know the answer, I tell my kids, let's Google it. Let's find out. That's a very good question. Let's figure out why. We approach everything with an open mind towards learning, and we try to give our kids the best answers, or we try to help our kids find the answers, and we're not scared to say that we don't know, because we like to let our kids know that it's okay to not know things. What you have to do is be able to go and find the answer if you want to learn something new. So we're always encouraging our kids to learn new things. We also try to find the things that our kids are good at. We try to nourish those things where they're naturally interested in something. My son really likes math and he really likes to sing. And my daughter likes to draw and she likes crafts. So we do our best to nurture these things naturally and help them grow in the areas where they have just a natural desire to want to learn something. Some other ways that we supplement learning is that we really limit our screen time and our tablet time. But when it's an educational resource, we have a lot of different apps and a lot of different YouTube channels where it's really, really educational content. It's not just junk food for the brain, where they're learning math, they're learning how to read, they're learning about different things in history, different animals, different science. We try to make sure that if they're consuming content or if they're playing games on their tablet, there's an educational aspect to it, which we still allow the junk food moments. We still allow them to watch some things that aren't just 100% educational, but we do our best to almost always make sure that if they are consuming content or if they are playing games, that there's some element of education involved in it and there's some learning that's going on with those things, because it's just a good way to help them continue to supplement their learning. Our kids right now, for their age and their grade that they're supposed to be in, if they were in a regular school, they are ahead in every area. They are 100% homeschooled. They're ahead in reading, they're ahead in writing, and they're ahead in math. Like I mentioned, my son naturally likes math. He's doing multiplication tables and he's practicing square roots, which is crazy because he's 6. He's not even 7 yet. He's better at math than I am. He naturally likes math. He's into this show called Number Blocks, which teaches all about math. So we bought him all the number block toys and he sits there and he does them. And he's been doing that for years. I mean, literally years. And we noticed that he likes math. So we let him learn more math. We give him the resources for things that can teach him more about math and push him to the next level. We make sure that he struggles enough, but is learning, and we don't make things too easy, but we also don't make things too hard, and we encourage that he continues to learn. It's really cool to be involved so much in your kids' education, and that was another big reason why we wanted to homeschool and co-op school. It's nice to know that we're seeing like the fruits of our labor, and we're seeing that it has been worth it. They're not socially awkward because honestly, they're super social because we constantly are socializing them with other kids as part of the co-op. We don't just sit at home all day. We don't unschool either, which I know that's like a popular thing, which I won't get into because that's not what this video is about. And we don't like free range teach them where they're just allowed to do whatever they want. We're very hands-on in their education and we make sure that they're learning as much as they can. One last thing I do want to talk about how we're going to educate them when we're traveling is that I've mentioned quite a bit of like how we do a lot of our learning at home, how my wife is part of a co-op and how we had the public school that has a homeschooling element to it. As we're traveling, we're obviously going to continue to do the things that we do at home while we're on the road. And our co-op is going to move into world schooling. And I've used the term world schooling before, and I've talked about it in videos when I'm talking about when we're going to be traveling. And it's kind of a strange term. It's a newer thing, but the gist of it really is just groups of traveling families who meet in certain cities and locations, and then they kind of travel together so that the kids can socialize with other kids in the groups. All of the families that meet are mostly like digital nomads and families that go to different parts of the world to explore and do slow traveling or are hopping around more and more. There's different types of like world schooling where some groups will actually have a teacher there and there's like a 6-week long curriculum, or a group that's going to be in a place for a really long time. There's other groups that meet in certain areas for like a week or two at a time, and then families will kind of like travel around together. There's also agricultural world schooling, or the local culture. You'll go and you'll learn from like a local farmer, or you'll go and learn from like a local teacher that'll teach you the language and teach you more about the culture. So there's different ways of doing it, but it's basically just families that travel around and find ways to educate their children as they travel and socialize their children with other kids that are traveling. Parents are still very much involved in teaching their kids on their own outside of these world schooling groups, because since these groups usually meet for a few hours a day, or if they have like a bigger curriculum or more of a structure, you'll actually like take your kids and they'll be there for 6 hours a day. We've looked into all different types. What we've done so far is more of like the pop-up hubs where they meet in certain areas and stay there for a week or two and then explore those areas, go to museums, go to art galleries, go to different things that you can learn in those areas. Like when we're going to Cambodia, we're going to be visiting different temples. We're going to visit a lot of the sites that are there to see. We're also going to go to a thing that's called the Hero Rats, which is going to teach about Cambodia's war and the landmines there and how they have these rats that they've trained to sniff out landmines, stuff that we're looking into that's part of the World Schooling Hub that we're meeting there. The person that's putting it together has an itinerary of all the places and things that we're going to do. And as we go to these places, that's kind of like our daily event. Afterwards, families will meet together so the kids can play, so that they can socialize, so that they can get to know each other. We can get to know some of those parents. And then we move on to the next location. Maybe we end up hanging out there for a while if there's some families that stay behind. And then we go on to our own next location. And then when we're back at our hotel rooms or at our Airbnbs, then my wife and I will focus on helping our kids with the reading and the math and all the things that are like the core skills that they should have. Also, the things that they want to learn, will help them with that as well. And another way that we're going to supplement this as well, and other people do this too, is we're going to have like different online tutors to help our kids learn in some of the things that they want to learn. This will be something that's new to us. Our kids are 6 and 7. So the last time we traveled, they were 5 and 6, and they're still fairly young. But this time around, we are going to look into some tutors that we can hire online to tutor our kids a couple times a week for different things that they might be interested in. We want to get them learning a second language. So I'm going to try to help them learn Spanish since I speak Spanish. And we're also going to see if we can get a tutor for my son to improve in his math, because that's something that he really likes, and see what my daughter might want to work on and give her an opportunity to choose something that she wants to learn. And that's another way that we will like supplement their education as we travel. I feel like I'm running out of breath. My voice is shot because I'm coming off of a cold, but I really wanted to do a quick video where I just talk about how we're educating our kids and what goes into our homeschooling and world schooling, and like how we plan to continue to educate our kids as we travel. And even if we were to stop traveling, how we plan to educate our kids as we continue to homeschool, because we do not see us putting our kids in a public school or a private school, because we just don't like and agree with the traditional schooling system that we have here in America. And as we travel and do this digital nomad family lifestyle, we're going to try to world school and continue to teach our kids as we travel. And I wanted to make this video for anyone who's interested in hearing this. So I'm going to stop talking now because I feel like this video was way longer than I had anticipated it to be. So with all that said, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you next time.